Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Lori, and it's been a while since I did a video, a couple weeks, about 3 weeks. I needed to integrate some of the energies of 2019 and a download that I received about a week ago I wanted to sit with before I shared it with you. But before I share this video about the energies and what we're going through, I wanted to thank every single one of you for being here. My YouTube channel is my everything. I put everything into my videos. I don't do a video until I absolutely not only have gone through whatever it is that I need to go through to share it, integrate the information, process the information, but really feel like I can share it in the most simplistic and elementary ways, and I won't do the video until I can. Everything that I receive and share with you is received from my own channel. It's from my own beings that I work with, light beings that I work with. So it's really important that I provide you guys with the most intimate information that I have and clear information that I have, if that makes sense. So this one I had to sit with for a little bit longer, a couple weeks. But I'm excited to share what came through. And I feel like, I don't know about you guys, but the first 12 days of January have been, I don't know, intense. The last week, there's been a lot of anger and frustration that I'm not used to feeling, moving through my body, clearing out, and really, I'm not going to say old, I'm going to say core foundational experiences that I brought in through the Akashic Records that have been clearing out the last little remnants. And so I wanted to share what came through. And I think there's a lot of us right now that are going through experiences where not only are we fed up with it, you know, a lot of us are like, it's 2019. I thought we were stepping into this new age, this new consciousness, this new vibration. And yet here I am feeling anger again, or frustration, or falling back into this older experience or belief that I've felt 20 years ago, right? And so let me share a little bit about what I received in this bigger perspective of what's happening, and that it's absolutely perfect, and that we are not crazy, and that we have not fallen backwards, and that even the most uncomfortable of experiences, or the most uncomfortable emotions, right, are a sign for all of us that we're doing it, that we're getting closer and closer and closer to this higher vibrational frequency where these core foundational experiences that we brought in to be in the third dimension are going to resolve itself, or dissolve, so to speak. So let me give you, I'm not going to try to make this video end at a certain time. So this could be a very long video. I have no idea until I finish it. But I'm not going to rush on this video. I'm going to really take my time explaining everything and really being in what's coming through. So here we go. When you came down, when I came down, when we came down as a higher frequency of light, a consciousness, a light being, call it whatever you want, but we were not this third dimensional physical form that just dropped in, okay? We were a light, a consciousness, a frequency. Depending upon who you are as a soul, as a spirit, as a vibrational consciousness, where you came from, what aspect of you came in, you vibrated at a different frequency than all the other millions, okay, billions of humans that came down. Now, because you were coming down into a third dimensional playground, they call it a playground, they see it as a playground. I think there's many of us would argue with them that this is absolutely not a playground. There's nothing fun about it, right, for a lot of us, but it's a playground to these beings because there's so much played out. When you were going to come down, okay, you came, this third dimension is a very low frequency. And there is amnesia, which we all know, we all forgot. Why was there amnesia? There is amnesia not because of choice, not because it was like, oh, we're going to throw you all down there, or you're going to go down there and choose to not remember. There's amnesia or blinders on because the frequency is so low that you can't hold a frequency high enough inside the physical form when you first came down to hold the remembrance, to hold the knowingness, to hold an aligned connection. So if you remember that everything is energy, and all energy is a vibration and a frequency and a consciousness, then in order for you to remember who you are, you have to hold that frequency. And in order for you to remember what you're doing down here, you have to hold that frequency, which resides in a higher frequency than a third dimension. So as a light being or consciousness, you knew that you were coming down into a vibration that was so slow, it was going to be incapable of your light to remember. And that what was going to eventually happen, fingers crossed, for the most part, we knew we were going to be shifting into higher states of consciousness, is that the human being was going to start to shift into these higher states of consciousness, to remember, to awaken, and to begin to reconnect and realign with these other aspects of that human so that they can begin to shift and shift and shift. So you aren't going to remember, we haven't remembered, because not about out of choice, but because we energetically couldn't. We just couldn't, okay? Not only that, but we couldn't stay connected to our higher self or I am presence. Most of us. This is a general sort of story. So, what was designed for us was an Akashic record. What is an Akashic record? In a very simple way, I don't work with the Akashic record. I don't pretend to work with the Akashic record. The Akashic record was designed for a third dimensional human. The Akashic record is not designed for a fifth dimensional human. So as a side note, I've said this before in my videos, the earth was designed the earth originally was designed in a fifth dimensional frequency, okay? And its original plan was to shift from a fifth to a seventh dimension. That was what its ascension was going to be. It's not to get into too many details, but that didn't happen, obviously, okay? So the earth is actually just shifting back to where she was originally starting at, only to begin to her ascension. Okay, so we're ascending to get back so that she can move. In that fifth dimensional field that she was existing in with humans on it, right? The Lemurians, the Atlanteans, and all the other civilizations that were on her, there was no Akashic record. The light being that came down didn't need an Akashic record. Now, why? Because when that vibration, when our light being, that light being came down, it was coming down into a higher frequency than the third dimension. It was coming down into a fifth dimensional frequency. And so, yes, this light being had to move into a lower state of consciousness, but at a fifth dimensional frequency, that light being, even though it was in a physical form, that physical form wasn't as dense. The field wasn't as dense. The field meaning the matrix, the kind of bubble around the earth, right? The grid that was around the earth was vibrating at a fifth dimension. From that fifth dimensional frequency, that being of light can stay connected. So even though it was in a physical form, it wasn't a super dense physical form, so it could remember what it was doing down here. It stayed connected to higher self and I am presence. It stayed connected to all the other guides that it designed to come in with them. It knew that it was a creator being, that it could create instantaneously, that that fifth dimensional human knew that they could create their reality just by intention and energy. How do you create a reality? You intend it, and then you understand energy. And you understand that your thoughts are energy, your intention is energy, and it will create a reality either physically in front of you or the manifestation of that next aspect of what you want to experience, whatever it may be. So as a fifth dimensional human, you didn't need to hold on to core experiences or things that you wanted to play out in the fifth dimensional field, because you played out everything in your now moment. So in your now moment, you would decide the next now moment. You were always deciding your next now moments. There wasn't a need to plot and to move you. And the other thing why there's not an Akashic record is because one of the reasons there is an Akashic record is because the light being coming down into a physical form in the third dimension is not going to remember its blueprint. If you're a light worker or a starseed, you have a blueprint, which is the why of why you came down here. The work, the purpose, the mission, call it whatever you want, the contract, it doesn't matter what you call it. It is a blueprint that is held in the Akashic Record. Okay? Now, for those that just volunteered, there's millions of beings humans on the earth plane that just volunteered to be on the earth plane, not to volunteer as light workers, not to do anything with holding light, assisting light, nothing. Millions and millions and millions. They don't have the same sort of blueprint, right? They have the Akashic Record, but they don't necessarily have a blueprint in the same way that the starseed and the other light workers have. When you're in a fifth dimension, you don't need an Akashic Record to hold the blueprint. You are in touch with the blueprint because you're awake. You're completely aligned. You know exactly what you're doing on that earth. And you play it out. And you choose how you're going to play it out. And the last piece as to why there's not an Akashic Record in the fifth dimension is because the playground on the fifth dimension is very different than the playground on the third dimension. Now, if you understand energy, when energy slows down, it stretches longer. There's a long, plus time slows down, but energy itself stretches when it slows down. And so there is much more that one can experience in a slower frequency. When frequency starts to speed up, it condenses and there's less that can be experienced within that frequency. Okay? So when you are vibrating at a very low frequency, like the third dimension, it is very low, you guys. There is millions of more experiences or emotions, consciousnesses to be felt, played out. And that's why there's duality in the third dimension. So there's positive and negative, love and hate, fear and joy, peace and war, you name it, greed and wealth, all these things, right? And there's no judgment around it. It just is an experience, a consciousness, an energetic frequency that can be felt when you jump into that field. When you jump into a fifth dimensional field, there isn't that gamut in the same way, because when these consciousnesses, energies, are vibrating at a lower frequency than the fifth dimension, such as fear, greed, pain, loss, the same kind of like the loss of like losing someone, that loss feeling, it doesn't exist in the fifth dimension because you're aware of everything. Let's see, what else? I mean, you name it, right? It's like abandonment, abuse, traumas, anxiety, frustration, these kinds of things, right? They vibrate. If you were to just take frustration or abuse, any type of abuse, or rape, killing, those kinds of energies, right? They're both behaviors, emotions, and there's thoughts and beliefs around them. Each one of those holds a vibration. So let's just do abandonment, or let's not do abandonment. Let's take abuse. Abuse, or the energy around a human that would abuse someone, or would choose that. I'm going to choose to abuse in this lifetime, hurt somebody else, harm somebody else, okay? That's the choice I'm going to make as a being of light. When I come in, I want to practice that, play that out, participate. What does that feel like? That energy, that is a consciousness, and it vibrates at a very slow vibration. Abuse cannot move into a fifth dimensional frequency. It can't be felt over here, because over here in a fifth dimensional frequency, it's vibrating faster. So at a faster frequency, you can't feel lower frequencies. You can't feel this. When you move up, you can't feel it. You can't even try to feel it. It doesn't exist because it's at a lower frequency. So abuse doesn't exist. Lack doesn't exist. Fear doesn't exist. killing, raping, murdering, those things don't exist, but they exist here. So when you are coming down into a playground that is so quote unquote chaotic and there's so much, you need an Akashic record. Okay? So, fifth dimension, you don't need an Akashic record. Hopefully I explained that a little bit as to why. Third dimension, you do. So when you come down, here's what you did. Many of us, most of us did this. We started to plan out our Akashic record, which holds everything that we wanted to experience in this lifetime. I'm not going to get into too much detail about how you're connected to past lives and all this other stuff. I'm just going to try to stick with this now lifetime. So you choose where you want to live, the parents you're going to have. Of course, your blueprint comes in. Why are you coming in? What is the purpose for you coming in? And how you play that out. Because the human has free will, it can be played out in many different ways depending upon your blueprint. There are many millions of light workers that have a blueprint in them that is very specific. You're going to do this and this and this and this and this. This is my blueprint. This is what I'm going to do. And it's very straightforward. So as soon as you wake up and start to tap into that blueprint, it's going to be very obvious what you're doing. For millions of us that are light workers and starseeds, we have a blueprint but it's not very specific. So it's like, oh, you're going to assist the healing of trauma, pain, wounding, slower vibrational energies within the human as they shift, right? That can be done in many different ways. As opposed to someone that is going to, you could be holding a blueprint that is like, I'm going to be teaching technological advances. I'm going to be, that's very specific. It's like you're going to be teaching technological advances, boom, so there's not a lot of varying in terms of how you're going to do that or how you're going to get there. But because the human has free will, there's always different avenues to take. There's never a specific boom, you're going this way. That's why we always have to be easy on ourselves in terms of where we are and how we're getting there. There's no direct path. So anyway, the blueprint comes in with us, right? The why, the what are we doing? And this is for light workers and starseeds. If you're just all of you that are watching this are light workers or starseeds. For the other millions and millions out there that are just volunteering to come in and play out, they don't hold that blueprint. There's a different type. It's not necessary for them. They don't need to remember why. They just need to remember what they're here to experience. So you pull all that in, where you're going to drop in, what time, what day, all of that. The humans around you that you're going to have these experiences with. And then you pull in a handful of core or foundational experiences. And these core foundational experiences are things like abandonment, greed or lack, always having this not having enough, not having enough, not having enough. Other core experiences is the core ones are more of like, they're always hard for me to remember. I made a list, and of course I can't remember the list right now. But they're core foundational experiences that for most of our lifetime we've been experiencing over and over and over again. And what happens is they're laid down, they're laid out, right? And not feeling safe. That's a big one. That's a big one. Not feeling safe. Safety. That's a big one. That's a big foundational experience. From these grounded, these laid down foundational experiences that the human is going to have, when they drop into the human form, here they are. There's these layers. There's this first layering. Abandonment, lack. Maybe you're going to have like, maybe you'll throw in great relation, like love. You're going to have a ton of great love is going to be a foundational experience that you're going to have, right? But you're still going to hold maybe like a lack mentality, like you never have enough money or you never have enough of this, but somehow you always have great relationships, right? Somehow you're always loved. You're deeply, deeply loved, but you never have enough of anything. It's like you're always needing more. That would be this lack that you pulled in. So there's it's not necessarily that you're going to have all of these quote unquote negative or unfun foundational experiences. By the way, nothing is negative. There is no such thing as a negative energy, emotion. There's no such thing as a negative energy. There's no such thing as a bad. It all just is, right? So maybe you pulled in abandonment. I'm going to feel like there's nobody ever there for me, and that anybody that I love, anybody that I bring in is somehow going to leave me. I really want to feel abandonment. And yet at the same time, you also are pulling in wealth. I'm going to be very wealthy. I'm going to have a ton of money all the time, right? So you go through your life feeling completely unsafe with loving humans and having humans love you. And yet at the same time, you're completely secure and satisfied with money. You have nailed the money piece, right? These are core foundational experiences that you as a light being chose to experience. Now, what happens? We drop in, and on a very unconscious level, as a third dimensional human being that you are unconsciously now moving through your life. The higher aspect of you, your higher self, knows exactly what you're supposed to be doing and experiencing, okay? So what happens is, throughout our life, is we, on a higher perspective and level, are pulling in these experiences, people, places, events, such as traumas, abuse, neglect, whatever it is, addictions, murder, rape, horrible things, on top of really great things such as success, wealth, love, being seen, all kinds of stuff, right? So we start with these foundational experiences, and then on a very unconscious level, we begin to create these experiences on top of them through people, places, events, abuses, or maybe amazing relationships, right? Addiction, or tons of wealth and success. It all depends, right? And then these experiences start to happen, and they start to build blocks on top of these foundational experiences you wanted to play out. And they build and they build. And you're sort of turning around looking at your life saying, holy cow, how am I here again? How am I still feeling this? How am I doing this again? Why is this happening? Because you have a foundational experience that is unconsciously creating. You are consciously, your higher self, this higher version of you, is just allowing you to play out what your foundational experiences are. So all these things are coming to you. Good, quote unquote, let's just do the third dimensional matrix thing. Good and bad. Okay, so there is no, I should only be experiencing good things on the earth plane, or I should only be experiencing bad things. Okay, there's a gamut, there's duality. That's just how it is. And so and there's many people that have come in and come down that have felt really aligned and connected and knew from a very young age what they were here to do, knew that they were connected, right? And they were driven, they were guided. So their Akashic record probably held very little, right? They were probably guided and pushed very early on from this higher version of themselves that was aligned and connected. And so they didn't necessarily play out all these experiences in the same way that most of us did. They weren't as blinded. They were able to connect into that blueprint. They were able to connect into and hear the higher self, right? But for many of us, we were very unconscious, and we were just playing out these foundational experiences. It's not that the higher self was guiding us to these horrible things. It's just that the higher self, this higher aspect of you, is just watching and making sure that everything goes in the path that you're designed to go in, which is eventually to awaken, right? So here you are walking along your path, however long your path is, and at some point along your path, you begin to wake up. And how do we start waking up? There's more energy and light coming down onto the earth plane and into our physical forms. There's higher frequencies of light. There's a massive amount of light codes. There's galactic activations. There's all kinds of grid work that's been going on. There's so much light work that has been happening that we as physical forms and light forms that are here to do work, we start to wake up. We start to remember. And as that happens, as more light comes into us, it begins to clear out, which we already know. We've been doing this for a while now. We know that the energy that is denser, it starts to clear out. So what is this denser energies that are clearing out? the blocks that are held at a lower frequency. And I just said earlier, what's a lower frequency? Fear, greed, abuse, addiction, pain, those all reside in lower frequencies. So as we start shifting and waking up, what is it that's going to start to literally shake, crumble, and move through us? These lower energy experiences, emotions, events, people, all these building blocks that we've held on to and experienced throughout our life that have allowed us to experience this foundational experience, whatever it is, not feeling safe, abandonment, lack, right? It's going to start to be pulled out and released simply by our own awakening or ascension process, which is the light coming in and the light coming onto the earth plane. So we call that healing. We call that trauma work. You know, we've done there's so many avenues in which we can clear those blocks, right? There's 1,000,001 different ways in which we can heal, move through trauma, get to the core. When you go into therapy and they're like, I'm going to get to the core of this issue, they're trying to get to the first experience that you remember having that's attached to this core experience, right? But it's actually beyond, it's deeper in there. It's held in your Akashic record. And the only way you can clear this, you guys, you can't go into the Akashic record and just start playing around and say, I'm going to clear this, I'm going to clear this, I'm going to take control. Because that's your ego. And the only way that the Akashic record gets cleared is by you shifting into higher states of consciousness. Because what happens is, as we are shifting into higher states of consciousness, what is held in the Akashic record that is of a lower frequency, which is for many of us our core experiences, they're going to release. They're going to be flushing through us. They are not coming with us as we shift. So what do you think we've been doing for the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 years? Pulling the blocks, releasing the blocks, releasing the blocks, releasing the blocks. And what's happening for many of us right now, I'm talking 2019 right now, I'm talking the last 12 days right now, is that we have hit these core experiences, that we've hit the core of them, the core, and it's intense. My whole body has goosebumps right now. It's intense, you guys, because these blocks have kind of allowed us to not feel quite the intensity of that foundational experience. And when we tap into that foundational experience, we feel the essence, the purity of abandonment. We're feeling the purity of lack. We're feeling the purity of unworthiness. The purity of not being loved. We're feeling this. And when I say the purity of it, what do I mean? I mean that there aren't layers on top of it any longer. So as we've been peeling back the layers, we've been tapping into it, tapping into it, tapping into it, having the courage to keep going. I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to keep clearing. I'm going to move through this. I'm going to move through this. I'm going to move through this. And look at where we are. The purest piece of it. There's nothing on top of it. There's no person. There's no experience. There's nothing for us to grab and blame. So it's what could be happening for many of you is that it's almost like it's combusting. It's like out of the blue, you may all of a sudden start to feel this huge amount of a very familiar feeling such as abandonment, loneliness, lack. I'm not going to have enough. I'm not going to have enough. I'm not going to have enough. Holy shit, I'm not going to have enough. Where is this coming from? Why am I all of a sudden feeling this? Unworthiness. And for especially as we start to step into these higher states of consciousness and you start to tap into your divine blueprint. For those of you that chose unworthiness, hold on. It's more challenging for you to step into your work because you decided to have unworthiness as one of your core foundational experiences. And you got to have a lot of worthiness, knowing that you deserve and are worthy of doing this work that you came onto the earth plane to do. But you're tapping into this unworthiness and there's nothing to grab. meaning all of a sudden it just comes out of nowhere. Maybe a really beautiful, amazing friend of yours said something, and all of a sudden you got this triggered reaction that tapped the core of that foundational experience. And it's not about your friend or your parents or your husband or your wife, your partner. They didn't do anything. They showed you, hey, guess what? Boop. You still got that foundational experience that's trying to just flow out of you, release out of you, right? There's a lot of anger coming up. The anger and the frustration, you guys, that you may be feeling, I'm feeling it, is that it's like, it's almost like you're tapping into something that you just can't believe is still there. And a lot of us are sick and tired of this, really, quite honestly. And it's almost like we got to this really great space because we're shifting, and yet within us, and actually deep down within the Akashic Record, right, are these foundational aspects that we've been releasing blocks of for a very long time for some of us. And here we are shifting and shifting and shifting. And yet there's these crumblings or these tiny little pieces left, and we're tapping them right now. You got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. You must be joking. I can't. This can't happen. And the people that are tapping, are the people that are kind of bringing your awareness to it, are people that are not, there's nothing they necessarily did. It's just how we trigger ourselves in order to bring ourselves back into what it is deep within that needs to be felt out. That's all. It just needs to be seen and felt out. So the next piece is, how do you let this be? How do you move through it? Okay, because we're shifting, you guys. So just because you're tapping into this, please understand this. You are tapping into this because it is still within the Akashic Record, which is inside of you. Okay, the Akashic Record doesn't exist anywhere necessarily. It's an energetic, vibrational kind of record holder that exists in a different consciousness, so to speak. But your third dimensional aspect of you holds it. So what happens is we are shifting and shifting and shifting. We're shifting and shifting and shifting. When we move into the fourth dimensional matrix and then the fifth dimensional matrix, as I said earlier, these dense experiences, consciousnesses, let's just call them consciousnesses or energies, all these things that we've been experiencing in this third dimensional matrix can't come. And so as we shift, we're still clearing out, but we're still shifting. We're still clearing out. So for some of us, we've been kind of vibrating and being in a much higher frequency. And then all of a sudden 2019 came, and it's like, what the heck? Wait a second. No. Right? We've got all these really potent light codes coming in. The veils are thinning. We're experiencing more physical things again. Tiredness, exhaustion. I slept for 2 straight days the other day, right? So it's like, not 2 days, a day and a half, but still a lot. And so there's a lot still happening with our own physical forms, integrating these really high light codes that are coming in. And with that, we are clearing out the dense energetic experiences that we pulled in to have in the Akashic Record on our third dimensional playground. But what you need to remember is that we're moving. This is not going to stay. What we're moving through is not going to stay. So what we need to do is this. My recommendation, which is what I've been doing, and this is what I recommend to my clients and to anybody else, is first of all, recognize what this is. So when you start to feel anger, frustration, rage, all these things, first, let's not judge it. Let's not judge it. You should actually be jumping up for joy, even though it's not fun to experience. You should actually be jumping up for joy because what it's showing you is, oh my God, I'm almost done. Oh my God, I'm almost done. It's coming up again. This is great. As a light being, like a Palladian or a Sirian or a Turian or something, when I communicate with them, they're so excited. I mean, they're so excited when they watch me kind of move through these things because they know that it's getting me closer to that higher frequency, that clear, aligned space that I'm designed to be in. So every time I clear out a little bit more, they're just watching and loving and holding. They're like, yes, keep going. Yes, keep going. Yes, keep going. There's nothing wrong with this. Sit in it, right? That's what they say. Just keep sitting in it. Sit in it. Just let it move through. Let it move through. They don't want us to get out of it. And there's no judgment around it. What does the human do? They judge it. And they don't want to experience it, right? Especially the core foundational experiences. We don't want to experience those. That's the purest of it. That's that's the strongest, right? We don't want to. For many of us, many of you that are listening to this have cleared a ton of your foundational experiences. And there's still a couple left, perhaps. Some of us, we have a lot left. But the point is first, don't judge it. It just is. And see it as, oh my God, I'm actually shifting. I'm really, really shifting. This is how I know I'm shifting. I'm feeling like crap. I'm having to go through this really intense emotion again, this really intense experience. Second thing you want to start to do, besides having this bigger picture and not judging, is you want to just be with it. So what typically happens, especially when we tap into the pure core foundational experiences, is it freaks us out. It's completely uncomfortable, and we don't want to feel it. So there's a natural sort of unconscious aspect of us that'll turn the TV on. We'll go shopping. We'll talk to people on the phone. We'll stay busy at work. We'll clean the house. We'll take, whatever we need to do to not just be with it. The fastest way that you can move through it is to literally devour it. Like, how much can I feel this so that it can then pass through me? So they gave me the analogy of a river, right? So we're flowing through the river and there's these huge rocks and boulders. And depending upon the intensity of this foundational experience that you're going to be tapping into, the bigger the rock, right? The more kind of edges it has. And so you're going down the river and boom, here comes one of these foundational experiences. And as you tap into it, you hit it and it hurts. But you don't want to grab the rock and hold it, right? It's like you hit it, and then there's this natural response to sort of grab onto it, thinking that if you grab onto it, that somehow you're going to be able to not feel it as much, or dissect it, right? Really understand it and peel away its layers. You don't want to do that either. So when something comes in that you're experiencing and letting go of, letting it move through you, you don't want to grab it. Because what happens when you grab it and you hold it is you start to try to process it, figure it out. Where did it come from? Why is it here? Who did this to me? What's the story behind it? What are all the beliefs and thoughts behind it? Why is it here now? All these things that the ego wants to do, right? All that's doing is holding on to it intensely and feeling it way more than it needs to. You're stopping the natural progression of how energy moves through you. The natural progression of moving through a river, which is you hit a rock, ouch, that hurt like hell, and you keep going, only to hit another rock, ouch, that hurt. But you don't hold it, you don't grab it and sit with it and play with it. So, you don't also want to distract yourself, right? You don't want to go off on the side of the river and hang out and play. So you want to move through the river with courage. And when you hit the rocks or whatever it is that that's going to come up, you feel it, you honor it. It's like, okay, here it comes. Here comes another one. I'm going to feel this. I'm going to feel this. It may last a couple hours. It may last a couple days, right? But it's going to move through you if you don't judge it, if you don't try to distract yourself, and if you courageously just be with it. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to sit, although sitting with it is a genius thing to do. Meaning when you start feeling it, it is so uncomfortable for the human to sit with it, but can you sit with it? Can you not? You don't need to necessarily dissect it, like write about it. Just sit with it. It's an energy and a consciousness that's moving through you. It's an energy and consciousness that's moving through you that doesn't need to be dissected. It doesn't need to be looked at and pulled out and said, okay, where is this coming from? Why is this here? You're more than welcome to do that, obviously. You can dissect it. You can peel it back. You can try to figure out why and when and how and all these things. It's just a choice you brought in when you came down, and it's trying to clear out of you. In a very simple way, no matter what choice you make in terms of how you clear it, it's going to clear. It's just a matter of the length of time in which it's going to take to clear it. So if you want to process it and go through courses on figuring out how to process it and how to clear it through you and all these step-by-step processes, you absolutely can do that. It's going to take you a lot longer, but you can do it. Or you can see it as an energy and a consciousness, recognize it as it's boiling up in you, feel the heck out of it, don't judge it, understand that it's clearing out from the Akashic record, understand that it has some component of the foundational experience in it, and there is nothing you need to do with it. And you're going to get frustrated and angry and uncomfortable. And how much can you remember to not judge it? How much can you remember that it's an amazing opportunity for you to see that you're shifting, even though it doesn't feel like that, right? And it's clearing. It's clearing out. Oh my God, I'm feeling this horrific energy. I'm feeling this horrific emotion. I'm feeling this horrific belief system in me. It's not fun, but I'm not going to distract myself this time. I'm not going to turn the TV on. I'm not going to call somebody. I'm not going to go for a drive. Unless you're going for a drive where you sit with it on your drive. I'm not going to distract myself. I'm just going to be with it. I'm just going to be with it. And as I go about my day, because I have to live my life, I'm going to let it just be in me. So you're recognizing that this energetic consciousness, which is an aspect of this core foundational experience, this emotion, feeling, thought, belief, whatever it is coming up or becoming felt and seen once again, because it is literally, physically, energetically moving out of you. And all you have to do with it is feel it through. It's almost like you're its friend, you're its partner, and you're just going to hold its hand while it moves through you. And if you're a really great friend, right? How do you be a really great friend to somebody? Or if you're a parent, how do you be a really good parent? You don't judge, right? You don't say this what's right or wrong. You don't try to tell it stories. Well, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, you shouldn't have done it this way. You just hold the person's hand and say, you're not alone, let's go. You're not alone, you can do this. You're not alone, you can do this. So that's what you're doing with these energies that are moving through you. You're just holding its hand, letting it move through its natural process. Energy knows what to do with itself. When energy comes up and is experienced through feeling and emotion and thought and belief, if you remember what's happening, which is that it is popping up so that it can move through, there's nothing you need to do. You just look at it, recognize it, and let it move through you. So if you have intense beliefs that are coming up over and over and over again, can you see those beliefs as a consciousness vibrating at a frequency? These beliefs are tied, connected to a core foundational experience you brought in. And these beliefs are coming up to be released. Beliefs are harder to release than emotion. Beliefs are harder to let go of than emotion. Emotion can move through much easier. Beliefs are stickier. They're a little bit more challenging to let flow through you. But if you do the same thing as the emotions, which is look at this belief coming up again. Okay, I'm going to bring my awareness out here, and I'm going to remember these beliefs were created from experiences in my life, blocks in my life, blocks, not an actual block, like that something blocked me, and a block that went on top of another block, that went on top of another block, which was experience after experience after experience, stemming from a foundational experience you wanted to have on the earth plane. And each of these blocks, each of these experiences created thoughts and beliefs, and then more beliefs, and it got bigger and bigger and intense and powerful, and it became paradigms and realities, and it was how you designed and lived your life. You created a life around all of these different blocks from this foundational experience. And what are you doing now? You're crumbling the blocks that you spent your whole life living. You're crumbling the belief systems that have been created by these blocks. You're crumbling and releasing the emotions that were created by these blocks. And we all did an amazing job. We followed our path. We played out what we came here to play out. And now as we're shifting, we're recognizing, realizing, and remembering this stuff isn't coming with us, thank God. And we got to clear it out so that we can move, so that we can shift. And nobody can do it for us but us. We have to clear this out. We have to let it go through us. Right? We have to. And so when the beliefs come up, oh God, here's that belief again. Okay, step outside of the belief. You're not the belief. Step outside of the belief. You're not the belief. What is the belief? The belief is saying this, this, this. Okay, that's not your reality. That's not your truth. It has been. And then say to yourself, where did it come from? Oh, it came from this foundational experience that I brought in with me to experience. Okay? And there's all these maybe there's all these blocks that you can start to connect it to. It doesn't matter, right? And then you start to allow yourself, you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to release this belief. I'm going to release the belief. I'm going to release the belief. And the beliefs are going to come up much more than the emotions when you release them, because it's going to take longer to release beliefs. They're impounded. They're like stuck in us. They can't flow through the same way as emotion does. They're like more sticky. It's like you can imagine emotion, which is consciousness, kind of floating around, and then you can imagine thought and belief as like dense rocks. It's like, can you please just move through me, these thoughts, these beliefs? So it's almost at 50 minutes, so I'm probably should stop. I could go on and on and on about this, but my whole intention for this video was to share with you what's happening on a bigger perspective, and that you are clearing out the foundations of these dense energies that can't come with you. And they're in the Akashic Record. And you won't have an Akashic Record as you move into a fifth dimensional human. And this could take many, 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 many years. Many years. Okay? We still have to get to that fourth dimension first. You can't skip the fourth dimension. So as we can see, for many of us, what we're experiencing, right, is still these foundational experiences that need to just finish out. There's just little pieces that are still in there, right? I'm sure there's hundreds of thousands of humans that don't have these to clear out anymore. They've already done it. So now all they're doing is just allowing the integration of all this light that's coming in, right? All this light that's coming in, they're integrating it. But they still have to deal with this matrix that we live in. So they still have to deal with emotions and humans and experiences. But what happens when you're in a higher frequency, so you've cleared out these third dimensional foundational experiences, what happens then is that you're living more in a now moment. And when you live more in a now moment, you're recognizing that you have the ability to create your reality in that now moment. You have choice. I can choose. I'm going to choose to do this. I'm going to choose to feel this. I'm going to choose to create this. I'm going to choose a different belief. I'm going to choose. So as you start shifting into higher states of consciousness, you start to realize that you're a creator being and that you can choose anything at any time. You're not a victim, right? But first, where many of us are, is this feeling of, why is this happening? How do I get out of this? That sort of space, right? And so this video was to share with you and allow you to see from a bigger perspective what's going on, and to remind you of where you're going or where you may already be. There may be aspects of you here, and then aspects also in this higher space where it's like, I do live moment to moment a lot of the time. I do create my reality. I do understand how to make a choice with my thoughts, make a choice with my beliefs, make a choice. I do that. And yet every once in a while, all of a sudden, I'm feeling this really intense, old, dense energy, emotion, belief, right? So it's okay. This is just us shifting, right? This is just us understanding what's going on. And you're okay. You're surviving. Don't forget, the last thing they wanted me to remind everyone was a couple things. One, to really honor what our bodies need. And not to beat ourselves up, of course. We are always being told that, right? Don't beat yourself up, don't beat yourself up, don't beat yourself up. But to remember the bigger picture. You know, we get caught up in our third dimensional world, you know, or fourth dimensional worlds, but usually third dimension. We get caught up in it. We get caught up in the everyday. We just get caught up. And so they want you to start to take that step back and remember. The more you can remember that you came down, that you pulled in an Akashic record, that you're playing it out finally and clearing it out finally for yourself to shift, right? And that these core foundational experiences vibrate at a frequency that is too low to move with you. And that's it. It's a neutral place to be. You know, it just all is. Oh, look, this is what I'm brought in to experience. It's not easy, but look at how far you've come. Look at how much courage you have to keep going. Look at how much courage it took us to jump into this physical form. You know, we're really not going to understand how much courage it took us or how courageous this was until we step out of it almost. And then we look back. Because when you're in it, it's really almost impossible to understand the gravity of what we're in. Because we're in it, we can't quite get the gravity of what we're actually doing. Okay? But it's a miracle. I say this in most of my videos. It's miraculous what we're doing. To shift a physical form that holds energy from one frequency to two frequencies above it, miraculous. Absolutely miraculous. So that's what you're doing. And this Akashic record message came in. And if it made sense, I'm so grateful that it did make sense. If it resonated, I'm so grateful. If it didn't, you probably turned this video off a while ago. So I'm going to turn it off now. I'm going to end it now. If this video resonated with you and you know others that would love to hear it, or it would assist them in whatever they're moving through, please pass it on. We're not alone, right? And the more of us that can jump into this channel and into other YouTube channels where people are sharing messages that we resonate with and that we don't feel alone in, it's so huge. It's so important that we come together and that we hear the same messages from so many people from around the world that are going through it. It helps us to realize, oh my God, I'm not nuts. I'm not crazy. I am shifting, I am ascending, I am moving into higher frequencies, regardless of what my reality looks like right now. Okay? So please pass this on to anybody that may need to hear it or would resonate with it. If you liked the video, of course, like it. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Subscribe. I try to put out videos every week or two. Sometimes I have to sit with the energy a little bit more, like this one, and really integrate it to understand it. But I appreciate every single one of you that are watching this video. I appreciate you. I honor you. I love you. I thank you for your higher self I thank your higher self for bringing you here to my channel to listen. I love you all so much. I'll see you the next time I come down into this YouTube vortex. And you can reach me at my website or on my email address that's down below. And I will see you next time. All my love to you. Be gentle with yourselves. Bye.